time I was serving a subpoena to a sergeant that worked for Corcoran State Prison. I was surprised how much security there was. I mean, they're looking in your trunk. They have mirrors under your car. They have dogs sniffing your car. They say, who are you here to see? And I think I said, I'm here to see Captain Smith. Now, normally they'll say, go wait in that office over there. We'll go get him. Well, no, they say, okay, go through this door right here. So gate shuts behind me. What are you here for? Captain Smith. Go through that door. Another steel door closes behind me. Thinking, this is unusual. I've never, then they go, who are you here for? Captain Smith. Go through that door. Another door opens and slams behind me. And so I was in this room and there's these gentlemen there with no ties, but suits, no ties, and other people. And then this guy goes, hey, what are you doing back here? I said, I asked for Captain Smith and they just kept sending me back here. You're not supposed to be back here. I go, I know, I just kept asking for you and they just kept sending me back. He goes, here, let me escort you back up to the front. And I said, hey, is Charles Manson, he's in this prison, right? And he goes, yeah, look he's right over in the corner talking to his attorney. So I looked, I'm like, oh, he is just the was the weirdest little guy ever.
This is Small Business Celebration, where we introduce you to successful small business owners at their place of business so that you can learn something that you can use today to grow a strong and profitable business and get your next big breakthrough. Hey Visioneers, sometimes we do these interviews in really tight places and it's like an obstacle course in order to get to our seats. I wonder how long it's going to take me to get to my seat for this one. Go. Ugh. 9.5 seconds. Welcome to another fantastic episode of Small Business Celebration. This week we're going to be talking about how to stop chasing discount customers and start building relationships that last. We're also going to be talking about, you're bootstrapping your business, but you're doing this without any credit. Does this help or hurt your business? Well, to guide us through all this is Ken Ruelas, the owner of Kern Court Services. Welcome to Small Business Celebration.
Thank you for having me.
And for Visioneers who don't know who are you and what is it that you do?
My name is Ken Ruelas. I'm the owner and operator of Kern Court and Tenant Screening Services. And what we do is we do evictions and we also do tenant screening. The tenant screening comprises of mostly our clients are property management companies, apartment complexes, things like that. So we say we help you get them in and we help you get them out.
This is not something that one often says, you know what, I think I'll figure out how to evict residential people.
So I got involved with this. I was first off started being a process server, serving papers, things of that nature.
And this was back in
1988.
Okay, 1988.
That's when I kind of started.
Right.
And it just worked out to where I had a lot of eviction attorneys. I didn't collect them. That's the people that I just collected. One fateful day, Senator McCormick, who I've been working with since 1988,
right,
came in and said, hey, my secretary is on vacation. She's going to be gone for a month. Do you actually know how to do the cases? I said,
is she an attorney?
She's an attorney, yeah. She's a landlord tenant. I was just serving her papers. That's all I was doing.
Oh, but she's a landlord
tenant attorney.
Okay.
That's what we call them. You know, you can call them eviction attorneys, but we say landlord tenant.
Right.
She said, do you want to learn how? I said, well, sure. Why not?
Right.
And every time she'd say, do you know how to do commercial evictions? No. You want to learn how? Sure. And then so it just kind of went from there. Do you know how to do mobile home evictions? No. Come here. Let's learn how. And that's just kind of how it happened, but just kind of strictly focused on evictions since 2003.
It takes a pretty thick skin to be able to do this. How did you, first of all, tell me about the first one you did.
My first case I ever did was a small claims case. I don't even know who it was for, but I was working for somebody. I did not know that Jesus was, so I'm thinking when I roll up, so I'm looking at the address, and then I roll up and I go, who am I serving?
Jesus.
Who names their kid Jesus? I said, what the hell? I go, boy, that's awful presumptuous. Wow. So I knock on the door and I go, is Jesus here? And he goes, you mean Jesus? I go, oh yeah, Jesus. Okay, yeah. But I didn't know. I had no idea,
How many times have you had the door slammed in your face, as being a processor?
Numerous, and again, you're saying thick skin. My biggest thing, and I don't know if it's just my attitude, but I'm getting paid to do the service.
Right.
I don't care if they're yelling at me, screaming at me, as long as they don't touch me, because my job's done. you're served, I'm done, I walk away. Your problems are just beginning. The guy that's screaming and yelling at me.
Right.
You know? But if I get involved with him now, I'm making more trouble for myself.
Right.
And I've been very, very fortunate. We've never had anybody try to accost me or push me or anything of that nature. There's always funny ones where, you know, we roll up on their house and they're out doing the gardening, they run inside their house and slam the door and, you know, things like that.
I'm not home. Yeah. Yes, you are. I just saw you.
People from this upstairs window, go away, I don't want it. It's like, sorry, you're served. You know?
Congratulations. Yeah. How did you go from being a process server into being a credit or checking people's credit, both residential and commercial?
Well, again, that was something that I wanted to find something I could do that I could live anywhere, right? And this is online.
Right.
That's kind of how I started. I thought, well, you know what? I can, because, you know, we're doing evictions, but not like we're doing them now. I mean, we're doing tons of cases right now. But at the time, you know, it was more of it wasn't so almost like a sideline. So I remember in December of 2005 is when I actually got started with that, but it took me forever to get TransUnion to let me run credit. Because their thing was, have you ever run credit before? No. Well, you
have to have credit to get credit.
That's what they were saying, and we were going around in circles. And I said, well, how can I get credit? And then, so finally, I just kept bugging them and going higher up, and finally they let me in. So December of 2005 is when they actually said, okay, you can run credit. And
because this is what makes you unique, is you have a business where if I have both property that's residential that I'm trying to rent out, or I have a property management company that I'm trying to get rental property out, or I have commercial property, and there's a wide variety of different types of commercial property out there. You're the kind of business I come to say, okay, is this a good risk or not?
Well, yes and no. I mean, we give you the information. We don't make the decision because I don't know what your criteria is. You know, and because really it really depends too. Let's say we have somebody in Texas. They're just checking to make sure they're not a serial killer. That's all. Because it takes them 10 days to get an eviction done. Nevada, yeah. They could care less. I mean, you know, because they could get people out so fast. California, yes. They want to make sure, they want to detail because it takes so long to get them out. So it really depends on where they're at. But again, our thing is we just give you the information. Now, they might ask me, hey, what do you think about this person? Then I will look at the credit report and I'll say, okay, if I had this property, if I was renting to him, I'd say yes, A, I would, or B, I wouldn't. I'd give him my opinion.
What are some of the pitfalls that business owners need to pay attention to that are common pitfalls that the business owner can easily avoid when they come to you when they're trying to evict somebody?
Well, I mean, the pitfall really would be just waiting too long. And now their hair's on fire because they want to get them out.
Right.
The tenant always kicks the can down the road, saying, I'm going to pay you on the 20th. And I always tell them, like, let's say right now it's beginning of the month. I said, that's too far. When the 20th comes and they go, oh, I didn't get my money, you're already now a month down.
Right.
You know, so that's really the biggest thing is just the waiting too long.
When it comes to evicting somebody, what is the documentation that a lot of business owners fail to do when they're trying to evict somebody?
The main thing is they do the notices wrong from the beginning. So either they do the 3-day notice to pay rent wrong, which is not a big deal because that's only 3 days. But so many of them...
And 30 days or 3 days?
So if you haven't paid your rent, you get a 3-day notice to pay the rent or quit.
Okay.
Okay, now they usually they do those wrong. So, but it's not a big deal because it's only 3 days. You know, if we have to redo it. But the biggies are when they give somebody a 60-day notice or they give somebody a 30-day notice to vacate and they did it wrong. Now we have to, you know, start all over with a new notice and that sort of thing. And I usually see that more with impropers, meaning people that are, you know, individuals.
So if I'm an individual who owns a house that I'm renting out, we're the ones that you have more difficulty with.
Yeah, because I'll get a call and say, hey, I gave this guy a 6-day notice. He didn't get out. I need to evict him. I said, give me a copy of the 60-day notice. Let me see what that looks like.
Sure.
Or they gave him a 30-day notice. And it's what's so funny is in California, if you've been there over a year, then you have to give them 60 days.
Right.
So the landlord will think, well, I gave him 30. And then, I need to give, and they give them 30 more. You go, no, it doesn't work that way. You don't give them 2 30-day notices. So they do stuff like that where they just don't get it. And so I have to redo the notices.
In California, Do you have to give a notice in English only, or do you have to give the notice in the language of the occupant?
My understanding is, let's say that the contract was negotiated in Spanish and it's in Spanish, then all the notices would be in Spanish. You know.
Okay, you're evicting somebody, and then another owner is saying, "Can you run a credit check on the person that you're already evicting?"
Oh, yes. that has happened just last week. And that's what's so nice about what we have here is my assistants, they help me with the evictions,
right,
or the paperwork and everything. So they'll come to me and they say, "You never guess who called us for an update." Or the other thing we usually get is that they put a fake person and we go, "Hey, we are evicting that person. Or we have evicted them." Or again, we need it for some reason. She has a good memory and she'll go, "I remember this person. I think we evicted them." And I'm very fortunate now we have the e-file. I can look stuff up really easy on e-file. I just put the last name in. Oh, yeah, we did. But they'll put a fake landlord and all that kind of stuff. So
this is the 20th John Smith that we have seen come past our desk. Yes.
Yeah.
And if you have multiple rental properties out there that you've been using Kern services for, and you've got a lot of cash flow coming in that you didn't expect, well, perhaps it's time to buy a new house. And to do that, I suggest you reach out to Mike Saba, a Zillow Premier Agent with Watson Realty. Born and raised and never left Bakersfield, give Mike Saba a call at 661-203-8406 or reach him at mikesaba1@icloud.com today. And Visioneers, if you've got a question, you've got a thought, something you'd like to learn about here on Small Business Celebration, reach out to us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, and your question could appear here on Small Business Celebration, just like Marcus, who asked, how do we transition our business away from a discount-driven customer and start building relationships with clients who value quality?
The only way I can suggest, because I did that, I collected cheap clients, and
especially when you first started.
Exactly, yeah, because they don't know you,
and you're just trying to pay the rent and everything else. Yeah,
exactly. And so all I can say is how we transition away from that is just stick with our guns. And we had a price that we figured that we could make a good profit on. If they didn't want to take it, they didn't take it. Now we still kept our cheapies, but then after we kind of weeded them out. So after we started going, we got more people that were quality, and we could tell the cheapies that, hey, we got to raise our rates. If they left, they left. If they stayed, they stayed. But it was just that transitional period. We had to have both at the same time.
Right.
We had to have cheapies and good folks.
Give us an example of something that you have done for these clients to be able to retain them in above what you were already doing for them from a procedural standpoint.
I think a lot of it is, like I said, fixing their mistakes and not charging them for it. That's a biggie. So when they have a notice or something, I'll just get it done for them. I'm not going to charge nickel and dime them, and I think our prices are good, but I'll correct their, or like right now, a good example, I'm covering for a client today where I'm just going to go down and it's going to be an hour of my time,
right?
But I'm not going to charge them for it. So just stuff like that, where whether they're in a bind and I'll help them out,
right?
And not charge them, or like say if it's a notice, I'll just get the notice done for them and no charge, so we can keep the case going. That sort of thing. Sometimes they have a problem, especially property managers. They have owners that are just jerks, and they let's say that my case cost $1,000, but they'll only give me $800. I'll say, you know what, that's fine. On this, don't sweat it. Don't. I'll just, because they're going to give me more work.
Right.
So I'm not going to worry about it, but that helps them because they're worried. They say, I only have $800 and you won't pay the extra $200, Ken. I'm sorry. Don't worry about it. We're fine. We're good. So, I think that's a lot of it, right? They're building a relationship with them, helping them out when they need help, but don't charge them for every little thing.
And Visioneers, you've built these relationships and your businesses continue to grow. Perhaps it's time to send them thank you cards. Perhaps you should reach out to Minimum Press of Bakersfield to do that. Are you singing carols for the holidays yet? Guess what? Your holiday cards are. Give Minimum Press of Bakersfield a call at 661-323-7757 or visit them at mmpbakersfield.com today. When you call, ask about their September 2025 holiday special. Get your holiday cards and holiday invitations ready now so you don't have to worry about them later. Call Minimum Press of Bakersfield at 661-323-7757 or visit them at mmpbakersfield.com today. Now, Visioneers, that brings us to the Visioneer Game. And if you're not familiar with the way the game works, I have a random word generator here on my phone. I have no idea what the random words the generator is going to create, but more importantly, neither does our guest. And our guest has to take each of 3 words that I give him and somehow associate each word with his business. Now you do realize, Ken, that the fate of the whole credit bureau business is based on your ability to get these 3 words correct, and if you get one wrong, everybody's credit's going to be perfect and everything is going to go falling apart because nobody is going to know what anybody's credit is. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, your first word is code.
Well, we have a certain code that we follow, and when we serve our papers, 3-day notices, things of that nature, that we serve them, we do it correctly, we're in the statute of the law.
Nice, that's 1 for 1. You're on your way.
Okay.
Your second word is officer.
Ah, well, that is interesting. Because,
softball here. That's an easy one.
Thank you. Well, that's an easy one because we, as process servers serving our papers and things of that nature, we are officers of the court when we're doing our job. Yes. That's why we actually have process serving identification, and we actually have a number. And the number never repeats. That is your number. But yeah, so that's why you have your identification on you, because it is a felony if you harm an officer of the court.
Congratulations, well done. That's 2 for 2. It all comes down to this.
All right.
The fate of the credit reporting bureaus are on your shoulders. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Invite.
I'd like to. Our company is very inviting. If you call my 2 assistants, Jennifer and Anita, or me, you'll get great service. Also, you'll get a cheerful person at the other end. You don't get somebody that's just putting in the hours. And trying to get you off the phone. So we're very inviting.
Very good. That's 3 for 3. The world of credit reporting is safe at last. Well done.
Thank you.
Now that you've had this life-changing experience here on Small Business Celebration and saved the world in the process, who would you like to thank?
I'd like to thank Dave Collins of the Commercial Trade Bureau.
And how did you meet Dave?
I met Dave through the Commercial Trade Bureau. So as I said
they're your biggest client.
They were.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, not anymore. Well done.
Because again, we don't serve papers. We do evictions. But when it was attorney service, back in the day, like in the 80s and 90s, yes, they were one of our big clients, and that's how I met Dave. We served all their civil cases.
And how do you and Dave continue to work together today?
We give each other leads. So what I do is when I have a client, after you do an eviction, I get a judgment for them and they can't collect it, we turn over to Dave. We've given some big commercial ones, and then of course he gives me leads all the time. Hey, Mr. Jones needs an eviction. Mrs. Sally, he sends me leads. So that's how we work back and forth. And plus we're in the same building. So we see each other in the halls.
And that brings us to our second Visioneer question, which is also brought to you by Mike Saba. A Zillow Premier Agent with Watson Realty, selling Bakersfield homes since 1992. Give Mike Saba a call at 661-203-8406 or reach him at mikesaba1@icloud.com today. Visioneer Jessica asks, since we're bootstrapping our business, we haven't established much credit history. Does that actually put us at a disadvantage?
I would say no. It doesn't put you at a disadvantage because you're not incurring debt.
Oh.
So you're more footloose and fancy free as far as that goes.
Right.
And again, I've been through times when I started the eviction process where yes, we had to advance the fees, and we're eating a lot of beans and for that time, but we get paid back.
Right.
And then you just save that, and just if you're on a good budget, you'll work your way out of it.
One of the, I guess, old wives' tales out there is that in order to, as a business owner, in order to rent property or rent a building or rent anything, you've got to have credit history. But if you're bootstrapping your business, you don't necessarily have any credit.
Well, but in my experience, now again, I haven't rented any place for the last 15 years because I've been here at the trade center.
Right.
Before that, it really wasn't. I rented from the Haberfield building. They just had me fill an application out. Before that, I actually, when I started my business on Chester Avenue, I actually lived in my office. That's how bootstrapped I was.
Wow.
So I just luckily where it was is I think it was a house at one time. So it was a front room, another room, a bathroom, and so it's 3 rooms altogether. And I slept in the back. Because I had a shower there,
right?
But again, that lady, I can't remember the company now. It's been so long, but no, they just had fill application out, and so in my experience, I haven't had to do that. Now, if you're renting one of these hotsy-totsy places like in the towers or something of that nature, I'm sure that yes, they're running credit thing. But if you're bootstrapped, you're not going to be getting some expensive, office space when you first start out.
Today, if you're bootstrapping your business, What can a business owner do to improve their credit as a business owner when they don't have anything big and tangible? They are a service-based business and they're trying to build their credit. What are some things that they can do to work?
There is a lot. Unfortunately, they would have to be in business for at least a year, but there is funding companies out there that will fund you. Now, it is pricey, but they will fund you.
And when you say pricey, you're talking like 24, 30, 50%?
Probably 20%, yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, again, but if you borrow the money, let's say you just borrow, let's say you borrow it, but you don't spend it, you just use it to pay back. That's building your business credit. So let's say you borrow $5,000 and you have to pay every week, $200 back every week, but just keep the money, don't spend it, and just use that to pay them, and even though you're going to pay on the money, maybe another $1,000 or $1,500 on that, but that's one way to build some credit up at first. It's going to hurt a little bit, but yeah.
Is there anything that you see that is asset driven that a business could go ahead and take a loan out that would be advantageous to their business?
Well, I mean, again, our business is a little different because we.
But I'm talking about customers that clients that you've seen that you've been running credit on. So, for example, if an individual wants to improve their credit history, they go buy a car.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Is there something similar for a business that they can do to help build their credit when they don't have any?
Well, I mean, again, it depends on how the business is structured, really. Because if there's a sole proprietor, it's just totally based on their credit,
Right.
If it's a business, they would want to set themselves up with Dun & Bradstreet in order to get their credit built up. If they're like a corporation, LLC, etc.
It's no secret that there's a lot of business owners right now who are struggling. What do you say to other business owners who are struggling and help them know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel and it's not a train?
The main thing is just be tenacious, keep going. Find what works best for you. Meaning for me, for example, how I get my work done is I get to the office here at 5 o'clock in the morning in order to get the most important stuff done, because right at 9 o'clock, that's it for me. Right. People are coming in the office or running around. I'm doing
Somebody's
interviews.
doing a podcast.
Exactly. And so that's one thing I would also say is find what works best for you. Maybe you're a night owl. Maybe working late at night and when it's quiet and you be more productive. And then of course, I always think of 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock as money making time. That's where you make dollars. And you're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days as a business owner. And
how do you work through them?
My thing, I just keep saying, it's tomorrow's the end of the day, really. Or I also reflect on why am I having a bad day? What happened? What's going on? I always talk to myself, to try to work through the problem, Because sometimes if I have a bad day, I'll say, you know what? The reason you're having a bad day is because you did that. You did this or that or that. And if you don't do this or that, you wouldn't be having this bad day. So it's on you. So stop doing that, so.
Well, Ken, this has been a real treat. Thank you for joining us here on Small Business Celebration.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
And if Visioneers want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Oh, okay. Well, we're not on Facebook or any of that, but we do have a website. It's kerncourtservices.net, or we have a website. It's kerntenantscreening.com. My phone number is 661-664-1200. Again, that's 661-664-1200. It's Kern Court and Tenant Screening Services.
And I'll be right back with my final thought. Small steps today lead to big successes tomorrow. Small steps today, big success tomorrow. Prior to Small Business Celebration, I was a director of photography for a lot of television projects, and I also was a lighting designer for a lot of live events. And when I first got started in Hollywood, I started off like a lot of people did. I was schlepping cable and hanging lights, and it didn't take me very long to know that my university degree showed me I knew more than just about everybody else around me. But I chalked up that the reason they were being grips and gaffers and DPs was because they knew people, more people than I did. So they got all the work because of that. Well, as I kept trudging along and laying out cable and hanging lights, the opportunity finally came that I became a director of photography for a TV pilot. And I went into that pilot with all of my vast knowledge and all my vast experience. And I went into that project and it was an absolutely unmitigated disaster. It was horrible. So bad, I got fired before the first day of taping. And the show ended up going through and hiring a different person. And of course, my luck, that show went on to get picked up by ABC and ran for 5 seasons. And when I looked back at that project, was it my fault? No, of course not. I knew more than even the person that they hired. But I chalked it up, it's because they knew all the right people. Well, as I continue to spend sleepless nights in my car because I couldn't afford to drive back home again to sleep in my own bed, and I was going from stage to stage and working so much that, I also didn't have the time, so I slept in my car. I began to pick up on that it was the little tiny things that I had screwed up on, that I had missed. And I began to realize that, maybe the problem I had with the pilot really was me. Maybe the problem was things that I didn't know, things that I didn't do. So I started taking little tiny steps to regain my footing and build more relationships, and also realize that there's all these little things of nuance that result in a finished, successful project. And finally, the day did come again where I got the opportunity to be the director of photography on a pilot. And the show did get picked up when we ran for 3 seasons. And it was a wonderful thing. And this was a lesson that was not lost on me. I took that to heart when I started Small Business Celebration. Here we are in episode 344. The lessons that I learned from Hollywood were, you have to take the small steps today. Learn the little tiny things, the little nuanced things that make for a successful project. And those little steps lead to a big success tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed our conversation this week here on Small Business Celebration, and I hope you learned something that you can use today to grow a strong and profitable business. And we'll see you here again next week when we celebrate another small business making a big breakthrough.
I check this on an applicant so you don't have to. We check for the criminal background and we check for their references. The reason we do that is we have to dig. There's no magic wand, and you have to dig. You have to look where they've lived. You have to go to look at those courthouse websites, and then you also have to dig on who are they saying their landlord is. You cross-reference that for if that person actually owns the house. Sometimes they don't, and it's their buddy. So that's something that we do that you don't have the time for. If you're applying for credit, don't do this. Don't fake the information. We will find out. Don't put the fake landlord. That immediately will get you barred, or your application will not be accepted at that point in time. Also, don't inflate your income. Again, we're going to find out how much you actually make. So any discrepancies, I should say, on the application would have you not be accepted for that apartment or house. The difference between checking for credit on residential as opposed to a business is that usually we'll just go through Dun & Bradstreet. If they're a California corporation, we'll check with the Secretary of State, and maybe we might, if there is a guarantor, we might run the guarantor. The difference for individuals is we're doing a whole different kind of check. We're running their credit, checking their FICO score, checking their landlord reference, checking their job income, etc. We don't check your social media to run your credit because we actually look at different websites, court sites. We're looking at the county records, things of that nature to see if your landlord is who you say they are. And of course, we're checking for criminal records where you've lived in the different counties. The one thing that nobody ever tells you when running credit is it's a hard knock on your credit report for the consumer. It is a hard ding on there that we're running your credit. It depends on your credit score, but it can make it go down substantially. The reason you don't have to have a private investigator's license to run credit is we're not private investigators. We are snoopers. My girls are great they've been doing this for so long now that they do get an inkling that there's something wrong with this application. And they just keep digging until they find it. The one thing that nobody ever tells you about process serving is the hours. You're out there from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. You're working weekends, you don't really work too many holidays because you don't want to get yelled at too much for serving somebody on Christmas Day. It's just the hours that you have to put in to get these people served. Because you're working when nobody else is working. That's when they're home.